Well, guys, I'm back. I am back, and this is episode 2 of Vocal Box. I had another episode planned, but I don't think I ever finished that episode. So, on the internet recently, right, I just put out my first ever short story. It's official, unofficial short story. It's not necessarily published. If I can get it published, that would be nice. I don't know if I want to go through publishing quite yet, because after all, this is like my first ever publicly posted story. So I just kind of want to test the waters and see what kind of feedback I get before I dive deeper into the writing realm and start getting things actually published. So for those that aren't aware, I'll probably see if I can link the short story in the description. But I released a short story. It's kind of in a way like realistic fiction, non-fiction type of deal. It's more so just like a brief story on life, you know, how I view life or how I viewed life. I titled it Another Life. And what this short story was about was it's kind of like a what if concept. You know, it's like, what if I took this path? What if I made these choices? What if I didn't make these choices? That's kind of what this story is about. In this kind of case, it dove into more of like the topics of going into the military. You know, first I started off just on the surface. What would life be like if I, you know, didn't make these decisions? What if I chose to actually go into the military? And I proceeded to go forth of like comparisons of characters that I have created. Yet again, not officially, but it's, I guess, somewhat unofficial. They'll probably come into other stories in the future. But I kind of just talked about, you know, what if I did choose the path of military? You know, maybe in some other life I did walk down that path, whether that meant I took up, you know, the Army, the Marines, National Guard. Those were the three branches that I really had interest in. So, as of currently, obviously I'm not in the military, but thinking back to that topic, it's made me think it would have been quite an interesting life. Things would have been vastly different. I don't know where I would have been stationed. I don't know what I would have been doing, but I kind of understand why I thought about the military. Now, obviously these days I don't have full consideration for it. Personally, I feel like I just have too much on the line to lose. So, around that time when I was thinking about it, it was more so a point in life where I feel like I didn't have quite a purpose. I know that's kind of like a common reason why some people go into the military. You know, like the main reasons are, you know, seeking purpose, seeking for a new experience, or, you know, a new challenge. Or in some instances, you know, they feel very, very patriotic. They want to defend the country by any means necessary. They have full passion for the military. For me, it was more so seeking purpose. I was at a point in life where I really feel like I just kind of ran out. You know, at that time, it was more so being fueled by the fact that I felt like I was lacking friends. I was kind of in a rough spot romantically. I was what you would call a hopeless romantic. So, with lack of emotion, but simultaneously a whole ton of certain emotions, such as sadness and upset, there was a point in time where I've considered the military where, you know, I thought maybe this can give me purpose. Maybe this can give me direction in life, where I kind of felt like I was going nowhere. Obviously, these days, I feel like I am going somewhere. As I've mentioned earlier in this video, I've delved into narrative stuff. And as you guys seen in the previous video, I've been really diving into narrative stuff. So I think that's just kind of where my focus has been and where it's going to be, is just writing, possibly eventually like filming stuff. I don't know yet. It's mainly been stuck with writing because I never really knew how to approach the whole film process. And I feel like it's still a little too early for me to dive into that whole thing. Plus, I mean, hey, acting lessons wouldn't hurt, so I should probably take up on that before I even do anything. But at the same time, I also don't see myself from the actor standpoint. I more so see myself as like director and possibly like videographer standpoint. I love being behind the camera, and I love being the person behind the creative process versus the person in front of it bringing it to life. But I mean, we'll see. Maybe I will dive into something like that someday, because I do have some narratives in mind that I could do on my own. I don't think I'll tell you guys when that'll happen or how it would happen. I think eventually I'll just kind of toss it into the ether and see if you guys catch on, or just see if the whole algorithm catches on. Who knows? Maybe one day it'll blow up. Maybe that's wishful thinking. Who knows? Just experimental stuff. See what kind of pushes the buttons of YouTube, but in a good way. You know, I want to create a form of entertainment, you know, bring something flavorful to the whole camera aspect instead of just, hey, this is my life. Like, I want to do something interesting with that. So once you guys know it comes into effect, you guys will know. There will be like little tidbits that'll kind of just pick at you and be like, hey, this is a narrative. If you guys don't catch on to it, then I don't know what to tell you. There will be some obvious points, but there will be some not so obvious points. Bouncing back to the whole military thing, yeah, there was a point in time where I've for sure thought about the military. Honestly, I don't blame family members and friends for being concerned, and, you know, other loved ones for being concerned about the idea of me going to the military. Because as I look back, I was kind of concerned too. Because when I thought of going into the military, I didn't mean like, oh yeah, I'll be a mechanic, or I'll be, you know, I guess like someone off the field. Like, no, I wanted to be frontline in the action, getting my hands dirty, you know, going straight through the grit and everything. That's what I thought about, was taking such a risk. And when I look back at it, I'm kind of glad that I didn't, because now I've found purpose, I found interest in life, and I found direction. It's not completely out of the question, but it's not quite out, you know, off the table. It's still in mind. For some of the people watching, no worries. I'm not going anywhere. I'm not going to be heading off into the military, at least not willingly. So won't have to worry about that anytime soon. I am sticking home. I'm sticking with you guys, because I know what I want to do in life now. I know who I want to be with, you know, who makes me happy, what makes me happy. I know where my passions rest. So I'm not going to be going to the military. And then another thing I've considered in the past was going into law enforcement. You know, being either a state trooper, a sheriff, or in some other cases, maybe like forensics. I mean, maybe even like homicidal detective too, or just any form of detective. Because I did have an interest in that kind of stuff too at some point. Law enforcement was a completely different reason than my consideration for the military. Military was more purpose-filled. Law enforcement was like actual interest. I don't know, I don't have full interest in law enforcement as much as I used to. So, yet again, not out of the question, but not completely something I'm on board with doing. So, yeah. But I guess to also bounce back to the whole narrative thing, yeah, I want to start writing stories. I want to put more stories out there, whether it be short stories, whether it be actual full-on like narratives such as novels. I've always wanted to write a novel. It's been kind of a dream of mine since high school. I'm sure somewhere out there, probably within the school system, they probably have my little novel that I was working on back in like freshman year, sophomore year. It's probably either lost or stuck in someone's files. But as far as I'm aware, I don't have access to it. That was on like school email and shit, so I don't have access to it anymore. Sadly, I can't dig back into it, but I can kind of remember what it was about. But there was a novel that I wanted to really work on, and I think some point down the road I'll rework it and properly format it to how I see fit, to what my current ideas of it are. So maybe one day I'll bring it to life. The best way I can explain the character in this novel that I'm thinking about, think of it like a crossbreed between, Dick Grayson, Night Owl, or not, whoops. I think I slipped out the name on accident. Nah, it's alright. I'll give that little tidbit. But think of Dick Grayson, or in this case, Nightwing, not Robin Dick Grayson, Nightwing Dick Grayson, crossed with like Jason Todd with like Red Hood. So someone who, can crack jokes, but if it comes to it, they can be very dark and brooding and very, very brutal. But that's if worse comes to worse. So I guess in a way, kind of like how Spider-Man is, he'll crack jokes, little quips, but fuck with something personal, and the jokes will stop. He'll probably bust off your jaw within like one full swing. So that kind of character. So kind of just that, I don't know if that helps paint a picture of what novel I'd kind of push for, but something kind of DC inspired between those two characters, that kind of crossbreed. Maybe one day I'll bring it to life. But like, I probably won't push for that until I work on the other stories. Some of them are short stories, others are kind of like, they can possibly evolve into full novels. I still have to kind of like see it through. It's kind of through draft phase a little bit. One of them's inspired by someone that I love dearly. So if you're also listening to this, thank you for the idea. I will credit you if it does become an actual, fully official published story. I'll make sure to leave credit for you. I guess that touches base on the narrative side of things. Because for those who know me personally, I love creative stuff like that. I love that kind of art form, whether it be through film, whether it be through books. And what's funny is that I'm not much of a reader of books. Like occasionally I'll read short stories, occasionally I'll read some like excerpts of books, but I don't think I've ever fully finished a book within my collection. I think I've delved like maybe halfway or like a quarter of the way and then just kind of fell out of it. Eventually I'll pick one of them back up and finish it. We'll see. Some know, others it might be a surprise, but I really, really love novels. I love stories. I love some of these books. And some of these books that I have currently are actually like heavy inspiration behind some ideas that I have so far started on. So some of them, it would actually be kind of cool if I could eventually turn it into an actual film, whether it be a short film or an actual movie. If I can eventually get to that point, like some point down the road within like the next few years, whether it be like 5 years, 10 years, hell, fucking 15 years, it would be amazing. Also, my apologies for the French. I'm trying to cut back on that, so, make this kind of segment E for everyone. But I guess in a way I kind of turn it at least like PG-13. So far I've dropped 2 F-bombs. I'll try to cap it at that. Sorry. That's my bad. I guess to dive deeper into a more personal aspect. I've been getting personal in this video thus far, but I want to dive a little more personal. As I stated in the video before I left, I wanted to kind of find what makes me happy, find what kind of centers me in this world. I had to kind of go through that trip, that journey for a good moment. It wasn't too long of a journey, but I had to like finally feel whole again. For a good moment, I didn't feel whole, and I didn't feel like it was right for me to try to like push content if I wasn't necessarily in the right state of mind for it. Otherwise, I feel like it would just be another form of work to just drain me mentally, and I didn't want to do that to myself. Especially if, this whole channel isn't really big currently. So I feel like I can easily just step away and then pop back in whenever. So I was taking that opportunity to step away. And then once I finally felt good again, step back into it. Now, as far as how often content will appear, I know it's like a broken record. It probably won't be that often. But I want to try to like push out at least like a couple of videos per month. Like if I can push out like 2 or 3, unless I'm really feeling up for it, then maybe like 4. Because I think as of right now, the last time I posted a video was like a week or 2 ago. I think like a week ago, if I know correctly. Maybe I'm wrong. But I want to try to like push videos more often, and I might start putting into usage some of that creative aspect. Start testing the waters, see what picks up, see what sticks. But I'm going to be very, very subtle about it. Very subtle. And then kind of just gradually build it. I know with some channels like McJuggernuggets or Jesse Ridgway, it's kind of hard sometimes with the content to discern whether it's fictional or not. And I believe there's nothing quite wrong with that. It just depends on how you approach it. And I can kind of see where people have distaste with his approach of it. I can kind of understand. But the way I'm seeing it, I kind of just want it to be like excitement. You know, like, ooh, is this like another fragment of narrative? Or is this just kind of stepping off to the side and just showing some real stuff, some raw stuff? Like I said, it'll be gradual. You guys will probably know when it is narrative based and when it's not. But I'm going to make it very gradual, very light. See how I can kind of help discern the differences. I guess all in all, yeah, I'm back. I'm back. And I feel like what would be fun is to eventually get some more people onto this. Maybe, just maybe, and this is like no secret, obviously I have a job aside from this, so sometimes I get caught up with that. That's another factor as to why some videos won't push out as soon as I want it to. But maybe, just maybe, like during breaks, I'll probably start recording this kind of stuff, and then if coworkers are up for it, then maybe they can jump in too. Just kind of adds to that presentation of what my life consists of. So we'll see. But yeah, I guess for now this closes out episode 2 of VocalBox. Hopefully I can try to push out more of these recordings as I intended, and then pick up the camera whenever I feel like it. Anyways, love you guys. Hopefully this wasn't too much of like just a off the walls confusion. Hopefully you guys were able to pick up something. And yeah, this is Life Through a Lens signing off. Love you guys.